Welcome back. We're going to continue our study in Genesis. Now, as we studied in chapter 17, we saw that Abraham was misinterpreting or not completely understanding what the Father meant when he said to him, leave your family. I'm going to bring you to the land of Canaan and make you a great nation. And I'm going to have children as numerable as the stars. And his wife, Sarah, at the time, later Sarah said, well, Most High's not letting me have this child. So Hagar. But that wasn't the plan. So then the Father came back to him in chapter 17 and said, no, you're going to have a child from Sarah. And I'm naming her Sarah because her name was Sarah. And I'm naming you Abraham from Abraham because you're going to be the father of nations and she's going to be the mother of nations. And he laughed, if you recall, chapter 17. The Father said, oh, so we're going to name your son that you're going to have in the next 12 months to laugh, Ishaq. So now here we are in chapter 18. Now in chapter 18 is one of the places where you clearly see Messiah appear to Abraham. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of scriptures from the Gospel of John. Gospel of John, chapter 1. Gospel of John, chapter 1. Welcome back to all the nation. Gospel of John, chapter 1. I'm going to begin at verse 17. Gospel of John. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 14. Gospel of John, chapter 1, from verse 14 down to verse 18. Gospel of John, chapter 1, from verse 14 to verse 18. And we're going to actually stay in John for a couple of references here. Gospel of John, chapter 1, from verse 14 to verse 18. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bare witness of him and cried, saying, this was he of whom I spake. He that cometh after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. And of his fullness have we all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Messiah Hawashai. No man have seen the Father Yah at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. So when people are looking at the Father, they're not looking straight on at the Father. He appears as a light. He appears as a smoking lamp, as we saw with Abraham. But you're not looking at his face straight on. Moses couldn't look at his backside, and he talked to Moses through a thick cloud, veil, when he talked to Moses. But he talked to Moses through the veil. But no man see his face. So when you see someone that's representing the Father, it's Messiah. No man have seen Yah at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. So when Jacob is wrestling with an angel, and he said, I've seen God face to face, he's talking about Messiah. So at different times in the Bible, you see Messiah. And Genesis 18 is one of those times. Let's take a look here at the Gospel of John, chapter 8. Let's see. Gospel of John, chapter 8. Well, I was going to go for verse 38 to 40, but that's not really what I want. Gospel of John, I think I want chapter 11. No, that's not it either. Hold on. Hold on, I'm going to. I found it. It is chapter 8. Gospel of John, chapter 8. Gospel of John, chapter 8. I'm going to begin at verse 52. Gospel of John, chapter 8, from verse 52. Yep. Gospel of John, chapter 8, from verse 52 down to verse 59. Gospel of John, chapter 8, from verse 52. Yeah, this is what I want. From verse 52 to verse 59. John 8, 52 to 59. Then said the Jews unto him, Now we know that thou hast a devil. Abraham is dead, and the prophets. And thou sayest, If a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death. Art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead? Whom makest thou thyself? Yahushua answered, If I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honoreth me, of whom ye say that he is your God. Yet ye have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say, I know him not, I shall be a liar like unto you. But I know him and keep his saying. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then said the Jews unto him, Thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham? Yahushua answered unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Then took they up stones to cast at him, but Yahushua hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. So Messiah made a declaration that before Abraham existed, he existed. Okay? Before Abraham existed, he existed. And of course, let's go to the prophecy about the Messiah in Micah chapter 5. Micah chapter 5. A prophecy about Messiah that is quoted in the New Testament, but let's get Micah as the second witness to this. Micah chapter 5, beginning at verse 2. Micah chapter 5, let's read verse 2. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. So it's the prophecy about Messiah's birth in Bethlehem, and said that he is from everlasting. Messiah said about himself, before Abraham existed, I existed, I am. So it's not surprising then, given these scriptures, these references, also David referencing Messiah, Daniel referencing Messiah. And of course, we know that the Apostle Paul, let's take a look at that. We have so far Messiah's own testimony of Micah the prophet. And let's take a look at Paul's testimony in Colossians chapter 1. Colossians chapter 1. Colossians 1. I'm going to begin at verse, and actually I put this as the scripture for the morning, for the message in the description box. But let's start at verse 12. Colossians chapter 1, beginning at verse 12 and going down to verse 19. That's Colossians chapter 1, beginning at verse 12 and going down to verse 19. Giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things exist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. So he is before all things, and by him all things consist, and he is the head of the body. And he said the church, which of course in Greek is the ecclesia, the called out assembly. And we know that as what? A nation. He is the head of all things, the head of the body, which is the nation, is the nation of Israel. Okay, so we have he is the head of the nation. By him all things consist, and it was him, but the Father chose that he should be the fullness of everything. So the Father chose Messiah to be his priest, to be his prophet. Messiah is chosen by the Father to take the kingdom of the earth. The Father appointed that to him, to have the kingdom of the earth. So now we understand the Messiah has a position that the Father appointed him as head of everything. And it makes sense. He is the son of the Father. So he's going to inherit the earth and everything in it, because he paid the penalty for the sins of the people that are going to be delivered from sin and from Babylon. So it's not, again, surprising that we should see Messiah in the Old Testament, and especially as he mentioned in the life of Abraham. You're going to see Messiah a couple of times in the life of Abraham as we go through Genesis. But now let's go to Genesis chapter 18. Beautiful thing here where you see Messiah visiting Abraham. This is Genesis chapter 18. I'm going to begin at verse 1, and I'm going to go down to verse 7. Genesis chapter 18 from verse 1 to verse 7. And Yahweh appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, as he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My master, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened unto the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, and knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. So Abraham knew that they just appeared, right? He's out there in the middle of nowhere. He's not in no city or anything. He's out there in his tent in the country, right? And here these 3 men just appear. And he kind of knows who they are. The Spirit tells him. And so he runs, and he's going to serve them. And so he tells his wife, make 3 measures of meal, make 3 cakes. And then verse 7, and Abraham ran into the herd, and fetched a calf, tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. So he went and got a calf. The most tender meat that you can eat is veal, is it not? That's a calf, that's a young cow. He went and got a tender calf. Why? He was servicing Messiah, who is the tender lamb. The sacrifice was going to be a lamb of the first year, tender and good. the sacrifice, a lamb of the first year. So he's going to get a calf, a young cow. He says, tender and good. Verse 8, and he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. So here's Abraham, a prophet, a rich man, a man that has 300 men as trained servants, plus not including all the other servants born in his house. He has a great multitude. And he goes and he serves the Messiah. And he's standing there like a butler. He gets the food prepared and he's standing. He goes, gets the fresh calf, has it killed and dressed, cooks it, gets his wife to make fresh bread, brings out butter. At that time, they made the butter from goat's milk, right? They made the butter from goat's milk. So you had butter and you had milk with the calf. And he said, he stood by them under the tree, and he's standing there like he's the servant to the Messiah. And they said unto him, where is Sarah, thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. Now you see, they're not calling her Sarai. He didn't have to go introduce them. He knew who these people was. And of course, they knew exactly who he was. Now, brethren, I can't think of much higher honor than the Father knowing us by name, right? I mean, for him to know, where's Sarah, that wife? Like, they know you, man. They know you. And he said, I will certainly return according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah, thy wife, shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. So she had already had what? Menopause. Menopause had already come on her. She's now, at this point, Abraham's 99, she's 89 years old. Okay? Menopause had come upon her. She wasn't supposed to have any more children. The Father allowed that. Put them in an impossible position. And what they had to do was believe in his word against the odds, against science, against nature. Believe in the Father's word. Verse 12. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? How much did she respect Abraham? My Lord, she called him. How much did she, sisters? I know it's hard. It's not easy to find a man, I mean a real man, that you can give such respect and call my Lord. This is what Abraham was to her. She called him Lord, Master. Such respect. I'm not saying that sisters, there's some guy out there telling all the women to call all the men Lord and Master. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying you should be of that, the man that you choose should be of the respect that you honor him to that degree. Not necessarily call him, but you give him that honor as the man. No real man, and two problems we have here, one with the men, one with the women. Today, women have not been taught properly to respect a man. And a lot of them have been hurt because they've been messing with boys. That's what happens today. Women grow up, teenagers, they come into their 20s and they start messing with guys their age, boys, really, for the most part. Not all the time, but most of them are messing with boys. And you sisters know what I'm talking about. And after enough of them boys have run through you and you get 30ish, you want a man. You don't want any boys anymore. The problem is the men that you want, they're looking at the girls that were your age when you was in your 20s. Okay? And the man, and you looking for a man. Now, you want a man your age, but really and truly, and I'm not saying he needs to be 20 years older than you, but if you want to find a man, he's going to be older than you for the most part. You got guys like myself. My wife was not my age, put it that way, without giving anything away. But the Most High chose a mature woman for me because he knew what I needed. And I needed somebody more mature. I guess I was a little bit ahead of my time and maturity level. But men generally mature slower than the woman. So a woman will generally have a man that's a little older than her. And that's Bible, somebody that's more established, that knows what he wants, and that's a man. Now, sisters, if you're going to have a man, you must respect him. If you can't respect him, don't have him. Don't be somebody that's just going to have a man fill your bed because you're lonely and then disrespect him. Don't do that. Wait for the man the Father has chosen you for you that you can respect. And men, you need to be of such character that a proper woman can respect you. You need to be of such character that a woman that is far above rubies, a woman that the Bible describes in Proverbs, can respect you. If you want to act like one of the fellas, that you ain't no different from the rest of the dogs out here. And that's what a lot of these brothers are, dogs. Not much different. So if you want a woman that's going to honor you like this, you must be worthy of that honor. You must show yourself to be a man of principle and dignity and wisdom. You can only get these things from your heavenly Father. You must seek wisdom. The Bible says, seek wisdom, and get wisdom, but in all thy getting, get understanding. You must seek your Father for the Spirit, that you will be of such character. And this has nothing to do with how much money you earn, what your net worth is, what you gross in on your paycheck. This has to do with you as character, as a man of honor and dignity and wisdom. And once you are of that ilk, the sister that is virtuous will recognize it. And you will recognize her as a sister of virtue. You see, brethren, a man, and I'm not saying anything y'all don't already know. A man likes what he sees. A man can get excited by what he sees. But when he wants to get serious and spend the rest of his days with you, he's looking for more than how shapely you are, than how pretty your eyes are, how pretty your smile is. That could fade away over time. What he needs is a woman of virtue, a woman of honor that respects herself. And what you need to pick is that woman that will give you the honor because she's virtuous and she recognizes in you the qualities of an Abraham. This is stuff we all have to learn. All of us, coming from our enemy's land and being raised in Babylon and not knowing even our names, we have to learn these things. We learn them from the Spirit. We learn them from the Spirit, and we learn them from the Word. We learn them from the Spirit and the Word. All of us learn that. But this is a big lesson right here. Sarah said, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old? Shall after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? Just that little sentence, brethren, shows us a whole lot about the relationship between Abraham and Sarah. She was a woman of virtue, and he was a man of honor. He was sitting in his tent. He saw the Messiah come with two angels, three men, in the form of three men. He goes to his wife and says, quickly, make some bread. She doesn't ask any questions. She didn't say, I'm doing my nails right now. She didn't say, come back to me later. I ain't cooking no bread for you now. She made the bread. Okay. And he wasn't barking at her. It was important. She saw it. See? Praise the Most High. But you have to understand, we all need to understand, brothers and sisters, we are all learning from new because all of us have been raised in Babylon. We've been raised in the society of the rainbow. We're raised in society of the alphabet soup. We're raised in the society of Gloria Steinem and ERA. And we're raised in society where the argument between the children of your fet women and their men, they roped you guys, you sisters and brothers, into their argument. We're raised in a society where the brothers of the Hebrews are purposely targeted to be destroyed, to be removed from the family, to be killed, while everybody's smiling and saying it's just your fault. This is how we're raised. We have to understand that's where we come from. And that's why knowledge of who we are is very important. Knowledge of who we are and where we come from. This man, Abraham, this woman, Sarah, is where we come from. In fact, let's take a look at that. Isaiah chapter 50. Isaiah chapter 50. Isaiah chapter 50 bears witness to what I'm telling you. Isaiah chapter 50. I'm going to start at verse 1. I'm going to start at verse 1. Isaiah chapter 50. No, 51. I'm sorry. It's Isaiah 51. Yes. It's Isaiah chapter 51 that I want. My bad. It's Isaiah 51. And I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 7. Isaiah chapter 51. It's not 50 I wanted. It was 51. Isaiah chapter 51 from verse 1 to verse 7. Watch this. Isaiah 51, 1 through 7. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek Yahweh. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. For Yahweh shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places. He will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yahweh. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Hearken unto me, my people, and hear and give ear unto me, my nation, O my nation. That's the church. For a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near. My salvation is going forth, and my arm shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me, and on my arm shall they trust. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, and the people in whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men, neither be ye afraid of their revilings. See, he said, look to the hole of the pit, look to the place where you come from. Abraham, I called him alone and blessed him. And Sarah, that bare you, here we looking at them. She called him Lord. Immense respect. That's a respect beyond measure that we don't see in this society. Sisters, be by yourself if you can't find a man that you can respect like that. Brothers, be by yourself if you can't find a sister that can be that way, that can reach that level of virtue. Praise the Most High. Genesis chapter 18. All right, I'm going to start at verse 12 again, where Sarah's talking. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And Yahweh said unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Is anything too hard for Yahweh? At the time appointed, I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Now Sarah's embarrassed because her thought is called out, just like with her husband, when the husband was told, you're going to have a child with Sarah. I'm changing your name and her name. Her name is Sarah. And he laughed, and he said, okay, I'm going to call the son, you're going to call him Isaac. Yisha'ak to laugh. So here, same thing. Sarah and Abraham said that in his heart, and the father heard him and said, no, don't doubt it. Now, Sarah is saying it in the tent, and the Messiah heard her. Why are you laughing? Okay, this is cute though. Why are you laughing? Right? Verse 15. And Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. And he said, nay, but thou didst laugh. It's like Castle King was saying the last time he said the Father has a way, he laughs too. He laughs too. He said, oh no, don't act like you ain't laugh. You did laugh. You did laugh. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. All right. Praise the Most High, yeah. He said, no, but you did laugh. Now, they all came and they talked the business they had to talk with Abraham. So now they got other business to take care of. They got other business to take care of. Let's start at verse 16. And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom. And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Yahweh said, shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And Yahweh said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, because their sin is grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me. If not, I will know. Now stop here. This is Messiah telling Abraham about what he's about to do in Sodom and Gomorrah. Right here, this is another proof that Abraham is what? A prophet. Why is Abraham a prophet? Because he's receiving testimony from who? Messiah. The testimony of Messiah is what? The spirit of prophecy. Isn't that what just happened? Messiah is telling, he said to his angels, shall I share what Abraham what I'm about to do? Okay, let me tell you. He's sharing what Abraham was about to happen to Sodom and Gomorrah. Messiah is there on command of his father. And Messiah is bearing witness to Abraham about what his father has told him to do. That makes Abraham a prophet. That makes Messiah, the spirit of prophecy. He's bearing testimony of his father. His father is telling him what to do. That is prophecy. So he's saying, I'm going to tell Abraham. And what did Messiah teach us in the Gospel of John? You're my friends. Whatever my Father reveals to me, I share with you because you're my friends. Isn't that what he said? He said, I call you not servants, but friends. For what my Father has revealed to me, I share with you. And that's the whole book of Revelation. It is called the revelation of Jesus Christ, or of Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, which Father Yah gave to him to show unto his servants, like Abraham, things which must shortly come to pass. So Father shares with Messiah, Messiah shares with us, which is why people get caught up in this one verse. No man knows the days and hour, not even Messiah. And they don't read any further, which is normal in Christianity. They don't read any further because the book of Revelation bears witness from chapter 1, verse 1, all the way through, that the Father has shared with Messiah the return of Messiah. Therefore, that book, the book of Revelation, is a witness of what Father shared with Messiah, including his return, including when he's going to return. Okay? Most people do not recognize it because it's not given to everybody. Not everybody is the Father's servants, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. Here, Messiah is sent forth from the Father, a personal visit to Abraham to tell him, you and Sarah getting ready to have a son. Good news, right? You and Sarah, and then he raises up and he's on his way to Sodom. And he says on his way to his two angels, shall I share what Abraham I'm about to do? Because Abraham is going to become a great nation. He's going to teach his family, and they're going to do the right thing. So therefore, I'm going to bless him, and I'm going to tell him what the Father told me. And that's what he told me. Praise the Most High. It's never complicated, brethren. When you find things complicated, you're looking at it wrong. The Bible is not complicated. From Genesis to Revelation, it's not complicated. When you find things complicated, it's because you are looking at things wrong. Okay? As we talked about in the last lesson. People don't want to admit they just don't understand the Apostle Paul's writing. Even Peter said that. But instead of admitting I don't understand what Paul is writing, they'll say Paul's not inspired. Or Christians will say, well, Paul's now the New Testament and the Old Testament done away with, because instead of saying we just don't understand. Okay? But we have been enslaved. We have been in our enemy's land. We have been in Babylon. We don't even speak the tongue. We don't even know our names. So, of course, we must be able to humble ourselves to say, Father, we need you to teach us all of this because we don't know nothing. And his Spirit does. Praise the Most High. Okay. Genesis chapter 18, verse 22. And the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before Yahweh. Now, we know when he's talking to Yahweh, it's Messiah. But again, no man has seen the Father at any time. The only begotten Son declares him. So here's Messiah talking to Abraham. And Messiah is there on behalf of his Father. Y'all got that? Messiah is there on behalf of his Father. So the two angels keep walking towards Sodom. And here's Messiah, and Abraham is talking to him. And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and spare not the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? What is Abraham doing? He's pleading for his nephew. Because he says, surely there's 50 people in that city that are righteous, that are not Sodomites. You know his nephew is not. Surely. Maybe we could save him from the destruction that's coming. Brethren, what are we called? We are ambassadors for Messiah. Why? Country sends ambassadors to avoid war, to try to make peace. Isn't that right? Country sends out ambassadors to make peace, to keep peace. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, we are ambassadors for Messiah. We beseech you in Messiah's stead, be reconciled to Father Yah. So here's Abraham, the ambassador for Messiah. He's trying to intercede to save them from being destroyed with his nephew. Verse 26. And Yahweh said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, I will spare all of the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto Yahweh, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure, there lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for the lack of 5? And he said, if I find 40 and 5, I will not destroy. And he spake and said unto him yet again and said, peradventure, there'll be 40 found there? He said, I will not just do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, oh, let not Yahweh be angry. I will speak. Peradventure, there'll be 30 found there? He said, I will not do it for if I find 30 there. And he said, behold, now I have taken it upon me to speak unto Yahweh. Peradventure, there'll be 20 found there? And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, oh, let not Yahweh be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure, there be 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And Yahweh went his way. And as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Abraham he was persistent, and he was trying to save his nephew and save the city from destruction that was coming. Okay? And he made that agreement with the Father Yah. If there be 10 found there, I will not destroy it. Brethren, the reason this earth continues to exist is because of Yah's chosen. The earth doesn't recognize that. But when you read this account, you will understand. Because of the 144,000, the earth is not destroyed. See, it has nothing to do with the Pope, with the UN, with their plans. It has nothing to do with any so-called national Sunday law. It has to do with the 144,000. The only reason the place is still existing is because of the 144,000. That's it. And it will be destroyed when Babylon has the nerve to put forth his hand to the 144,000. You see, brethren, they are used to beating us, enslaving us, jailing us, improperly treating us. They're used to it because the blessing was no longer upon us, because we were being punished for the sins of our fathers. But unbeknownst to them, we are being awakened. Unbeknownst to them, the 144,000 have been born and are on the earth. Unbeknownst to them, we have turned back to our Father and to his word and to his law. Unbeknownst to them, they are no longer allowed to put forth their hands upon us. And so, when they go to put forth the hand because they want to force us to worship the Babylon system of worship, which includes the 3 Abrahamic religions, they want to force us into that system and call us following the Bible terrorism or hate speech. That's when they would have crossed the line. It's in the Bible too. We've seen an example of that. Remember Esther? What happened with Esther? Esther was in Persian kingdom. She hadn't revealed who she was among other the millions of people in the Persian kingdom until the time came. What time came? The enemies of Yah's people decided to kill all of them. Man, woman, and children. They crossed the line. And Mordecai stood up And all of those that went to kill the Hebrews were slain. That's right. And she put forth who she was and stood up at that time. Well, brethren, here we go again. It's when they put forth their hands and try to force Shadrach, Meshach, and the bad Negro to bow to their image. It's when they try to force us to do it, they're going to have a problem. The only reason the place is still standing is because of the 144,000. That's it. And nothing. Remember what the word says in Revelation chapter 7. The angel commanded the 4 angels, hold the winds until we have sealed our Father's servants. Which indicates and implies once they are sealed, let it go. Once we are sealed, you're going to see all of these things happen. The religious power combined, that's already combined with the government power, they're going to do stupid things like they're doing now. I mean, can you imagine? Seriously, can you imagine an individual, just say any individual, says, I can put my hand on women's privates if I want to. I could do what I want to do. I could kill somebody on Fifth Avenue and still be president. And he does all of that, whatever he wants, incites a riot against their own laws, and still half the folks in the country want him to lead them. This is how bankrupt morally the country has become. Half the country want a clown to lead them. The other half want the alphabet soup. Bankrupt. Morally bankrupt, the whole nation. And the only thing stopping it from going over the cliff is the continued sealing of the 144,000. That's it. Once we are sealed, the winds will be let loose. They're going to act like they're going to act a fool. But it's all good. Because when they raise their hands against us, they're going to have a problem. From our cousin. Praise the Most High. You're going to have a problem from our cousin. Okay, we're following the Father. And Father's sending forth the cousin. And they're going to have a problem. We're going to be fleeing too. All good. Not for long, though. None of this is very long to come. None of it. Like I said, less than 10 years. 9 years or less. 9 years or less is what we're talking about. Okay? Coming fast and furious, y'all. And so we're being prepared by the Father, as Abraham was, Sarah was. We're being prepared by the Father, by his Spirit. And right now, it's because of us being sealed in the process of development that the place has not been destroyed yet. But it's coming. They've already filled their cup. It's not filling, they filled their cup. It's just a matter of hold the winds until we have sealed the servants. It's our development that's saving their lives. They just don't realize it yet. But whether they realize it or not, the most important thing, brothers and sisters, is that we realize it. That's more important. Whether they know who we are or not is not important, brethren. Although Father has said, I'm going to let the heathen know who you are. He said that when I'm sanctified in you. But the most important thing is that we know who we are. That we know who we are. That's the most important thing. We have a knowledge of self. Who are we? We know who we are. That's the most important thing. And in that, we just keep going with our Father. We all right. Praise the Most High. Okay. That was chapter 18. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May the Most High cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Most High lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.